game. Poly Dungeon. Poly Dungeon. You don't know how to code. Video. Make a video game. Video game. Can't do Apple. Devlog. You don't know how to code. Oh. Hey! Welcome back. Okay, so here's the deal. I decided to make this game where you hit monsters and stuff, but little did I know, game dev is hard. I cover more of that in the last video, but if you're too lazy to watch it, here's what you need to know. Though, you should definitely watch it anyways. Originally, I was the animator and my buddy Drew was doing all the code for the gameplay. I made a main character, the main enemy species, and a bunch of other cool but secret things that will be in the game. Eventually, Drew had to leave the project because he was busy, and now I have to figure out how to code. Now, Drew has left me a couple things that are extremely cool and functional. A guy, he moves around, you can hit him. It's good stuff. But obviously this isn't really a functional player. An enemy system, the camera's a little wonky, sword swinging slow, the combo has no indicator, the enemy is too big and he's too slow, damage you twice from one attack, so much stuff that we gotta fix. The project was basically just a huge mess and has lots of useless imports, and I decided to start from scratch. This way I know exactly what I have and what I don't. So let's get started! Nani? Hey idiot, aren't you forgetting something? What do you mean? You can't code, dumb nut!
Oh, poop.
I have no idea how to code. It looks so complicated.
What is that? What the f*** is that?
Now, I could look up a tutorial and learn the proper way, but I mean, there's already code right here. Look at it. It's all fancy. You got lots of things. It's like, if this, then that, right? Yeah. And now it's time for Code School with Professor Hayden. Okay, kids. So we know that there's way better resources online to learn from, but that's for losers. Let's go ahead and take a look at an example. Okay, so we'll make a new C and make it plain, scale it up, add a crappy texture so we can see, pop in our player and goblin from the last project, and it's back to where we started. Okay, so notice there are two characters here, the player and the goblin. Now, the player sucks and needs a lot of work, so we're gonna ignore him and let future Hayden worry about it.
Looking kinda thick. I'm just saying.
So instead, let's focus on the goblin right now. So this is the goblin script, or Gobble, as I've decided to call him. And I think it gives a really good idea about how basic Unity scripts are set up, how functions work, and all that fun stuff. Now, of course, this is me looking at the script retrospectively, and I have a much greater understanding of what things mean. Back when I first opened up the script, it was a little more confusing. So up at the top there's this class word. This will come in handy later, but as of right now, let's assume that I don't know what it is. Then there's all these things, and they are called variables, I think. Generally they're either numbers or objects so that you can reference them in the script. And then there's the actual script. So void start only happens at the very beginning of the script, and it only happens once. And then void update is called once per frame. It won't start over, if you get into a loop, it'll continue that loop. I don't know. I might be wrong. Luckily, Drew didn't leave me any comments in this script, so I have no idea what means what. Had to definitely pick it apart and Google a lot. Now where's this going, you might ask? I mean, I have to figure out all this stuff, make it more efficient, better suited for gameplay. Seems kind of boring. And you're right. You don't know what this means. I don't know what this means. So we won't go over this. Sight! Bam! Fancy editing. The weapon system doesn't work. Bam! Better timing. That boy only does one hit of damage now. Gobble isn't interesting. Bam! Smarter AI. Does your Gobble only patrol 4 points? BAM! Make the Gobble wander around aimlessly, questioning his existence.
Is this it? Is this the end? What sequence of events brought me to this point?
The biggest change I made to the Gobble is his AI. Whereas before he just follows you until eternity, getting as close to you as possible so he can hit you. Now if you get far enough away from him, he'll leave you alone. He also has a field of view, so he can't see you from all angles, and will back up and wait before coming in to hit you again. This makes fighting him a little more interesting, because you have to time when you decide to swing against him or when you might want to block or run away. Probably need some touch up, because right now you can beat him up from behind with no retaliation. I also edited his size and made his animation transitions a little smoother using Unity's fancy state machine. And honestly, it made for a really solid first enemy. The good thing about enemy scripting is you can reuse a lot of it to make other enemies, so I've already got a couple other enemies along the way. The other big thing I want to cover in this episode is making the map. Now, I want to make the game open world, but also I don't want to have a bunch of open, empty space that make exploring the world boring. So I'm going to start a little bit smaller and then eventually expand with free updates after the initial release. But even so, the world has to be pretty big to fit all the junky, stupid ideas that are inside my head. If you know anything about 3D modeling or even drawing, you know how hard it is to make an area of land look somewhat natural? Luckily, I'm a freaking genius. I found this cool website online called Incarnate, which essentially lets you draw your own fantasy map. It's a super cool site, you guys should check it out in the description. I'm not sponsored or anything, I just think it's kind of cool. Basically, I drew out what I wanted the map to look like, and then in Paint.net I made it black and white. Now the black and white correspond to how high or low the land should be. You'll see why this is important in a second. After this, I opened up Blender, I made a plane, added a bunch of polygons to it, and then I added a deformer to it. Now the deformer takes all these black and white areas and corresponds it to how high or low it should be. So a gray pixel would be kind of in the middle, black would be lower, white would be higher. We can import this onto our plane and then it essentially makes a land for us. After some sculpting and some painting, this is what I came up with. Now it's not that highest quality mesh, so I added some extra polygons and I tried experimenting with some smoothing and stuff like that, but I haven't exactly gotten it to the point that I want. It's hard to find that nice in between where the land isn't too sharp and all junky, also not too smooth, and looks like it doesn't belong. I then cut it up into some chunks to help with frame rate when it gets into Unity, but I later found out that Unity already has a decent render distance type thing called far clipping plane, so I don't really know if this is going to be necessary. It's so difficult for me to hold myself back from showing you guys everything. I really have so much done, but also a ton to go. Progress is kind of slow right now because I'm taking summer classes and I need to get a job, so maybe if you guys continue to support me and this channel, I can spend more time on the game and also my videos. That's basically my complicated way of asking you to like and subscribe. Next video, we take on the ominous player script. Ooh, scary. Okay, I think that's it. Cue the dancing bus man.